platform. Mr. Green.
Morgan. So firstly, as we close out Farmers Month, I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to express our sincere gratitude and commendations to our farmers. I've always said that if you are eating something, then you should thank a farmer. And the farmers' hard work sustain us throughout the entire year. And this April, we've been celebrating our farmers. We got off to a wonderful start with the agricultural show in St. James at Montpelier and also in St. Mary. And we've had a host of activities just to remind our farmers how grateful we are for their service and the fact that they feed our communities and fuel our economy. So I want to thank them specifically for their hard work and their tireless efforts. And just to say that despite having a very challenging year last year, our farmers really put their shoulders to the wheel to start 2024. And our preliminary figures indicate that the first quarter of 2024, we would have grown our agricultural sector by over 10%. And that is a testament to the hard work, dedication, and determination of our farmers. And that is why it's so critical that we have to respond as our farmers have gone into a drought cycle that is really causing them tremendous challenges. What we did is that we recognized from January that there were significant issues across the country, especially in parishes like Manchester and St. Elizabeth, where they were having extended dry spells. And as such, we started from about the end of January trucking water to our farmers. In fact, between January and March, we have trucked about 9 million gallons of water, helping 900 farmers. Additionally, we have also been working with farmers to be better able to withstand this current drought by making them more resilient. And as such, we've worked with about 45 farmers to develop catchment areas and provide them with pond liners. And that work has helped about 1,000 farmers in enhancing their water management practices and their agricultural sustainability. Additionally, we've targeted about 6 areas, highly productive zones, that we're building retention, catchment areas. We have earmarked over $8 million to that drive. We have completed one already in Hindstown. We're doing some work in Lucky Pen in St. Mary to ensure that when the rain does come, that our farmers are better able to capture that water and to use that water for their agricultural enterprise. As we have recognized that the drought has persisted, and what started in Manchester and St. Elizabeth has now been extended to multiple parishes, we have enhanced our drought mitigation response. And as such, we're now focusing on Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Trelawney, Westmoreland, St. Anne, and Portland. We've allocated an additional $24 million to the trucking of water, which is part of a bigger program that amounts to about $90 million. So trucking is our immediate response, and I want to say to our farmers, if you are in need of water, please contact your RADA extension officer or your RADA parish office. Also, you can contact the National Irrigation Commission. But we do recognize that trucking is just one element. But in order to even treat with the element of trucking, we have realized that we need to enhance the assets that we have in the Ministry of Agriculture, especially those that are used to truck water, so our water trucks. What happens during a drought oftentimes is that it's very difficult to get the private contractors to truck water to our farmers because they also have a high demand to truck potable water. As such, what we have been doing, we've targeted enhancing the water trucks that we have, and we're taking an all-of-ministry approach. So the Jamaica Bauxite Mining Limited, one of our agencies under the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, would have recently unveiled a new 5,000-gallon water tank, a 5,000-gallon water truck that will target farmers in St. Anne. So that's an investment of about $15 million. We're targeting about 4,000 farmers in St. Anne's Bay, Claremont, Monique, and those surrounding communities. And we would have unveiled that on Friday, so I expect that that water truck is now on the road. And again, our farmers, you can contact your RADA parish office in St. Anne if you need support from that water truck. We will be unveiling 2 more water trucks this week to service communities in St. Elizabeth and in St. Catherine. Additionally, of the 90 million that we have earmarked, we will be providing additional support for storage and drip irrigation system. So we've targeted about 600 water tanks and about 400 12 millimeter drip irrigation hoses, and that distribution has already started. Additionally, we've earmarked about $8 million to really help with our livestock farmers. We know the difficulty that you're facing now in this time. Very hard to get the right nutritional support for your animals, and as such, we will be providing some hay, we will be providing some trucking of water to you. Again, our livestock farmers, if you are in need, please contact RADA and let's see how we can help in these times. Additionally, we have been working with our farmers to remain vigilant during this period to look out for updates from the meteorological services, to also download, if you have the capacity, the RADA app, so that we can help guide you not only in relation to what is happening on the rainfall side, but also in relation to your integrated pest management. We know we do see some increases of certain types of pests during this time period, and it's important that our farmers are paying attention to that. It's also important that you're taking the drought management seriously, so soil mulching, looking at planting drought-tolerant crops, timely harvesting, implementing land husbandry treatments, contour ditches, planting cover crops, minimum soil tillage. All of that is important now as our farmers face this ongoing drought. I'll speak a little bit about our fishery sector and what we've seen last year and some of the things that we're working on, and then I'll speak a little bit about our mining sector. In 2023, our fishery sector significantly boosted our national economy, contributed about 160 million United States dollars. We did see marine production account for 151 million and aquaculture amount for 8 million US dollars, and that's 151 million US dollars of the 160 million total that we would have contributed to the national economy. We did see a noticeable increase in our registered fishers, and we're happy for that. We saw an increase moving from 5,687 fishers who renewed their licenses to 7,644, a 34% increase in renewals. And we continue to work on that. And we do believe some of the systems that we've put in place to make that easier is bearing fruit. We also saw an increase in marine fish production. We saw substantial growth by 28%, yielding 13,691 metric tons, again valued at US dollars 151 million, compared to 10,000 metric tons in 2022, which was valued at $118 million. So we are seeing a noticeable increase in our marine fish production. We also saw an increase in our tilapia production, and the NFA would have produced 1.3 million tilapia seed stock to help the sector meet their demand for tilapia. And we would have broken new ground for a brand new tilapia hatchery, which will move our annual production from about 500,000 fry to about 5 million fry annually. Additionally, if you haven't heard, Jamaica is the first country in the world to attain Marine Stewardship Council certification for our queen conch fishery. That certification underscores that Jamaica's conch industry is sustainable and also gives our conch a significant competitive advantage in the global market. Our conch industry is valued at about 8 million United States dollars annually, and this opens up, this certification opens up new avenues for our local conch fishers. Additionally, we have been strengthening our National Fisheries Authority. We have put more boots on the ground to provide greater extension services. I've said to the team, just as our farmers are used to rather being that arm that they turn to when they have challenges, when they're looking for technical support, National Fisheries Authority will be that avenue for our fishers. And as such, we've been enhancing our extension services. Yes, we will have extension services in our fisheries sector, and we've been enhancing our compliance officers. And over the course of last year, we were able to do 900 site visits across critical locations to provide fisheries oversight. And that includes our fishing beaches, marinas, restaurants, tournaments, seafood stores, rivers, fish farms. It's a comprehensive approach to ensure that we monitor and also that we enforce our regulations. We are now in the close season for lobster. I know we all love our lobster, but again, if we don't have these close seasons, then we will not have an industry to protect years to come. And as such, we do a close season for lobster and for conch to ensure that during the times that they reproduce, that they have the necessary protection. So I'm just reminding everybody that we are in the close season for lobster. It runs between April 1st to June 30th. There is a maximum fine of $3 million or 2 years in prison if you are caught with lobsters during this period. And if you possess tails from undersized or buried lobsters, again, that is strictly prohibited. And we want an all of society approach. So please, if you go to a restaurant and they're serving lobster during this time, contact the NFA. 948-9014, 948-6933, 967-2081. So while we're in the closed season of lobster, the good news is that we're in the open season for conch. So please, you might love lobster, try conch. And conch would have started, our conch season would have started the 1st of March, 2024. And again, it's important for all of us to work together to protect our marine species so that generations to come will have them. Let me turn briefly to mining and some of the developments in mining. The Jamaica Bauxite Mining Limited, company that was set up years ago to manage the bauxite assets that were formerly held by Reynolds. Clearly, part of what we have to do is think about life after mining. And the Prime Minister has tasked all of us as ministers to look at assets under our portfolios and where those assets are underutilized or underperforming, to take strategies to ensure that they're servicing our people. As such, I tasked the Jamaica Bauxite Mining Limited to look at their asset base and to see what can be done, especially to drive rural development. And I want to commend the Jamaica Bauxite Mining Limited, who have put forward the development of the 101 Industrial Park. This industrial park will be developed in Southeast St. Anne on lands that were formerly owned by Reynolds. It used to be a Reynolds Industrial Park. Clearly, with Reynolds not operating for decades, it has fallen into ruin. We are going to revitalize that. And as such, we have put together a $445 million project, which we expect to commence this year, which would run for 9 to 12 months, which would not just look at refurbishing the area that is located at Reynolds, but would really look to bring in investments of the industrial nature. So we'll be doing warehousing, we'll be looking to position that area as a pathway to economic prosperity. We do see an employment factor of about 100 jobs directly, and this is just phase one. I've also asked the JBM to work with the Agro-Invest Corporation to identify the first agro-park for the St. Anne region. And we do expect that in a few weeks we'll invite you members of the media to come to a signing of an MOU to get that done. What we're looking to do is not only identify an area for an agro-park, but as we do in our agro-parks, to provide land to people who want to get into farming at clearly concessionary rates. We are also in the early stages of developing a commercial zone and a housing complex, and you will hear much more about that. Two more areas under mining. The reopening of Alpart still remains a priority for this government. We do know the significant impact of Alpart, especially in relation to parts of St. Elizabeth and Manchester, but more importantly, the national economy overall needs to see that sort of input from Alpart. Alpart is now owned by GISCO, and it is the country's only high-temperature aluminum refinery, uniquely capable of processing lower-grade bauxite found in some areas of Jamaica. I'm pleased to announce that we would have had a high-level team from the Gansu province and from GISCO who visited with us last week as a part of their feasibility study and plan for the reopening of Alpart. We would have had a very open, frank meeting about the possibilities. Clearly, they're going through a process looking at the costs and the feasibility of it, but we did come away from that meeting feeling very hopeful. There are 2 more visits scheduled for the end of this month and also for June, and the team from GISCO has indicated that the last quarter of this year, they will submit to us their plan for reopening, and as such, we look forward. Clearly, we would have pledged the support of the government towards reopening GISCO Alpart. Additionally, I would have met with a team from Jamalco last week, including Century Executive's Vice President of Global Operations. Jamalco is going through some management changes. All of this is towards prioritizing increasing production numbers. We would have discussed issues regarding land reclamation, land titling, and that is a priority of this government, to treat with some of the issues that have really not gotten the sort of attention that it needed over the years. And we would have gotten a clear commitment from the new manager of Jamalco and also from Century that they will prioritize land reclamation, that they will prioritize land titling. I've asked Minister Whittle to pay keen attention to those areas, and we do expect to see an uptick in the pace of land titling during this year. So with that said, exciting times for agriculture, fisheries and mining. Despite the challenges we face, the ministry continues to work together with our farmers, with our fishers, and of course with our mining sector to drive economic growth and development for Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Green. Naomi, good morning. Do we have any questions this morning?
Good morning, Minister. Thank you. Good morning. Yes, we do have a few, but may I start with you, Minister Morgan? The Prime Minister having posted the decision from Cabinet yesterday concerning recognizing the state of Palestine has received commendation online. And I see a few comments, though, asking, what took the government so long in coming to this decision? If you could help our viewers understand really the deliberations that go on in matters such as these.
Well, I think the Minister of Foreign Affairs would be best placed to outline the process. All I will say is that Cabinet did consider the matter. We view it of significance. And the Minister did make a presentation to Cabinet, and at the end of the presentation, Cabinet was unified in its position and make the decision which was published to the public.
Thank you, Minister. All right, Minister Green, if you could, there are a few questions for you from members of the media who are watching online. The first question comes in terms of the expected cost impact because of the flood, because of the drought. If you could help our journalists in terms of just getting a response in terms of what are the likely impact on the various vegetable crop because of the drought.
So the team from RADA is presently out in the field doing our assessment. We do know normally when we have extended periods of drought that the areas most impacted are vegetable lines, especially our leafy vegetables. So we're out doing the assessment now. I wouldn't give any figures as yet. I do expect that by next week we will see what is happening. Clearly what we're trying to do in our drought mitigation exercise is to cauterize loss, to try and help the farmers save their crops. We do expect, nonetheless, some fallout. So by next week, we should have some figures and we'll be able to tell persons. I would have met yesterday with our greenhouse cluster and to see how they can ramp up production during this time to ensure that we have sort of consistent supplies of our vegetable line. So that is work in progress. So we should have a better grasp in terms of any loss that we've suffered by next week.
I think the specific question, Minister, was, is there any vegetable crop that's looking like it will be more impacted than the other as yet?
So normally, or leafy vegetables, so normally things like lettuce, normally things like cabbage, normally some of our fruit lines that depend heavily on water are normally impacted, but it's a little too early to say the extent of the impact. One of the challenges, and I'll be very honest, and one of the realities is that, we have to be now rolling out drought mitigation from as early as March, from as early as February. Normally, you would save that for the summer months. So we are seeing the reality of changing climate. What we also have seen is that more of our farmers are preparing for these eventualities. So we're doing the assessment in a week or so. I'll tell you where we've seen significant reductions, but normally we look out for our vegetable lines. Those are the ones that normally suffer the most. Clearly, things like Irish potato, we've already seen some challenges in our Irish potato crop, and as such, we look at steps to treat with that.
Okay, thank you, Minister. I have another one for you online, then I'll go to two questions on the floor. And again, it's a follow-up to that in terms of the impact or measures being put in place specifically for the tourism sector, dealing with local food production and crop that is sold unsold to our hotels.
Yeah, so far we haven't had, and let me step back. So, the fact that we saw a 10% increase in production in between the January and March quarter, and in fact, we do expect that when we finish assessing the preliminary results, it will be more than 10%. A lot of those increases were in our vegetable lines. So thus far, we haven't heard significant complaints. In fact, thus far, we haven't gotten tremendous complaints at all from our hotel sector in terms of challenges that they're facing. Thus far, we're managing through the drought, but if the drought persists, it will get more difficult for vegetable lines. Our sector knows that when we have those challenges, they reach out to us and we see how we can work together to ensure that there's no break in supply. And we will continue to do that. So I want to assure our citizens in general, members of the media, that we will do what needs to be done to ensure that there is food security during this time period.
Thank you so much, Minister. All right, we have a question from the floor. Ms. Davey from Nationwide.
Hi, good morning. Dana Davey from Nationwide News. So you announced earlier this month that the ministry will be funding a program through HEART, through which farmers will be trained through aquaculture. When is that set to start, and what exactly will that entail?
Yeah, so thank you. One of the things, we are placing a lot more emphasis on our fisheries sector. And we do, as a part of our food security drive, believe that we have to drive the production of fish, especially tilapia. So what we've done is that we have renovated 3 ponds at the Ebony Park HEART facility. We expect to start training in September for those fish farmers who are interested in the area. What we have found, a lot of people have gotten involved in fish farming, but they don't have necessarily formal training. So we want to ensure that they have better outcomes, that they're taking a scientific approach to fish farming, so we're going to work with HEART in that regard. Additionally, we do have a program through the ministry where if you're interested in fish farming, if you were to prepare a 1-acre pond, up to 1 acre, we will provide you with the fish free of cost, right? So we're really looking to drive our tilapia fish production as a means of food security. So that training will start about September, and we do expect in another few weeks to unveil our newly renovated ponds, and we will use that to drive aquaculture.
Minister, I have another question from our media online in terms of the cost for the trucking of water. I'm not sure if you had mentioned that in the your presentation in the main, but they're asking for those figures.
Yeah, I think between January and March, we already spent about $9 million trucking water. We have allocated an additional $24 million. Clearly, we are looking at, we've extended the parishes, so when we started, we were really focusing on Manchester and St. Elizabeth, which was, you know, the early indicators where they went into dry spells very early. Now we see Westmoreland is a critical area of priority, Clarendon, Portland, parts of Trelawney. So 24 million we will utilize for the trucking of water. Clearly we'll continue to assess. It is early days, so you know, we do hope that we will see some rain. I've been looking at the projections. It does appear that we may get some rain, hopefully in the center to the east of the country. The west and the south do appear that they will have a difficult time. So we'll continue to monitor it. And as I said, part of what we're doing, and this is about planning. So we appreciated that we would be in drought this year. So we would have procured from last year, started the procurement process for some trucks. So we're better able to reach to the farmers. So we would have unveiled one of those on Friday. We're going to unveil another 2 on Thursday so that we're better able to face the drought.
Thank you for that, Minister. Minister Morgan, I believe this one would then be for you. It's not related to agriculture, so you can take this one. We note that the crime figures are trending down, specifically the murder figures, but in recent days there have been a number of police shootings, especially in the St. Catherine area. Does the government have a concern on this regard?
Well, we don't have the full details on the circumstances of these incidents. We would have to depend on the police and INDECOM. We cannot make a definitive statement on any of the incidents other than to say that if the police are confronted by criminals, the police have a right to take action. But we cannot pronounce on any particular incident until the constituted authority, which is the internal police mechanisms, as well as INDECOM, have finalized their investigations.
All right, thank you so much, Minister.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions? Oh, another ad. Okay.
Hi again, back to agriculture. So, Minister Green, recently your opposition counterpart, Dr. Dayton Campbell, raised concerns about the government's plans to divest the AMC. You've been quoted in the media, saying that there are no such plans. But just for clarity, what exactly are the government's plans for AMC?
Yeah, thank you. So I think when people hear the term divestment, they often think sale, right? And you know, I have said openly, I say it again, that we do believe that agriculture is one of the spaces that should be free from politics, and that we should be working together at one mission. And I would encourage my counterpart that where there are challenges, where there are concerns, let's discuss them first, because it may help in terms of clarifying. And that is the approach that we take at the ministry. In fact, when the opposition spokesperson was appointed, we invited him and the junior spokesperson to come down. We met with them at the ministry. We went through our plans for most areas. So in relation to the AMC, the reality is that the AMC complex, up until 2016, had tremendous challenges in relation to management, in relation to investment, right? And I think everybody would agree that it was not fulfilling its fundamental purpose. The AMC complex was established largely to look at things like distribution and storage in relation to agriculture and to help drive exports. And while we do have people operating there and we commend them, even the tenants there will tell you that the overall state of the AMC needs a capital injection. So what the government did was to bring together a team to look what was the best methodology to ensure that the AMC remains in agriculture and is truly fulfilling its purpose. So we brought together an enterprise team chaired by Erwin Burton, and including members from the Ministry of Agriculture, from the DBJ. We did things like looking at the valuation of the property, looking at the models that we could utilize for public-private partnership to bring that capital injection. I think the team has just completed their work and has submitted their opinions, their recommendations. Again, in the terms of reference, we said that the AMC must remain in agriculture. So I want to remove any thought that the AMC will be taken out of agriculture and will be used for another purpose. That will not happen. What we're looking at is the best approach to, for example, get a private sector company to partner with the government to look at the capital improvements that is needed to enter into various arrangements, whether that may be lease, a section of the building, or a long-term lease, or do we go it alone? Does the government look at what it would cost for the full renovation of the AMC, and do we take that now to the Public Investment Infrastructure Committee and ask them for that resources? What we now have coming out of this process is we now know how much that costs in terms of what funds would we need if we're going to do it alone and do a full renovation of the AMC. Additionally, we now know what are the options in terms of a public-private partnership, and a couple of options have been put on the table. The next step now is to take it to Cabinet, right? So we will go to Cabinet over the next, I would say, maximum 4 weeks to indicate the options that have been put forward and to hear from Cabinet what is the best option for us to pursue. But no matter the option, the AMC will serve agriculture. And coming out of this process, what you will see is a renovated, reinvigorated AMC complex.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Naomi. Thank you very much, Minister Green, for joining us for another edition of our post-cabinet press briefing. Also, I'd like to thank members of the media, also Jamaica Information Service and PBCJ, as well as our team here at OPM for their assistance. Also, members of the public, we really appreciate you viewing and listening to the information being presented. Until next week or next time, same time, for another post-cabinet press briefing, please have a safe and prosperous day. Thank you very much.